what we call the federal teacher scheme, through which we interview, screen some NCE holders, and we send them to the various states. The states nominate the NCE holders, we interview them, screen them, and then they are employed in the states with some minimum salary that we are giving them. Also, the N-Power is also another intervention strategy that has helped basic education very much, because you know that most of the manpower in N-Power are used in the basic education system. So there are some of the intervention strategies that have helped us in terms of teacher quality. And we also undertake training of teachers seriously.
It's not just about employing them, maybe through whatever modes, but their training, their ability to deliver appropriately in the classroom. How do you ensure that? We
have the cluster training that the Department of Academic Services conducts, but the quality assurance officers are involved as well in monitoring to make sure that standard is maintained in that cluster training. The cluster trainings are done during the holiday so that it doesn't interfere with the day-to-day activity in the school. So, and it's as soon as the schools close for the holiday, the cluster training starts, most especially during the long vacation. So there are some of the strategies that we use to beef up the teaching learning in the schools.
In Nigeria now, how will you describe the quality of basic education?
Well, I have to say that there is improvement in the quality, most especially since the coming of the present Executive Secretary, Dr. Hamid Boboy. He has that zeal to improve the system. And for quality assurance itself, which is a method that we have been using, a process, he has always made sure that that activity is carried out without any failure at any time that we are supposed to carry out that activity. And that of supply of instructional materials and other items, some basic equipment that are needed to teach in the schools. The Commission is really doing very well to make sure that all those things are made available in the school system. And that's the thing that improves every school system, when you provide in real materials that are supposed to be used.
Now let's talk about the structures on ground in the schools. Who determines the quality of the structures? Because this is very important.
That is the responsibility of this office. And we have our own standard that is set. For instance, in the schools, in the ECCD section, the nursery section, you don't need to have more than 25 in a class. But because of lack of infrastructure, you may have more than that, and also lack of teachers. Also, in terms of instructional materials, there are standards. For instance, before any textbooks are sent to the schools, we must make sure that they tally with the curriculum and that they are broad enough to give the learners the desired knowledge that they are supposed to have through passing through such instruction. And so all those things are to assure that there is quality in everything that is being done. Even in terms of classroom structure, space, and all the rest, there is that standard that is set for them.
What happens if a school is found wanting, maybe in the area of structure, teaching, and other materials that does not meet up with the quality we expect?
In quality assurance, when we go there, we note all those things. And when we come to the suburb, we have to tell the chairman of the suburb, this is our observation concerning these schools we have gone to. Learners are sitting on the ground, or the furniture that is in the school is not adequate. And then that gives the chairman also the information that he needs to build in his action plan if he's coming to assess his intervention fund from the UBEC.
Talking about accessing of fund, if we now have an institution that has access as fund and is still found wanting in those areas, is there any sanction for such school?
Normally there are.
So what's the sanction? How do we go about it?
Well, sometimes if we find out that, one, in the first place, you know that the funds are not adequate to take care of all the needs at the same time. But if, for instance, there is an intervention area and we find out that what is supplied to that school is not measuring up with the standard that is in the action plan, then that state is sanctioned.
What's the role of the general public towards achieving this?
Well, the role of the general public is that of advocacy and sensitization. If the public is fully sensitized on the need for education, and if also they see the practical aspect of improvement in the system, definitely they will support. And with the program that also is coming up, the self-help program of the Commission, which is more or less an enlightenment program also drawing the communities into the system, definitely they will begin to see the need for them to bring their children to school and also improvement in the system.
I'll be speaking with Mr. Eyinaya Sylvester, the Director of Quality Assurance with Universal Basic Education Commission, and he has been telling us about the need for quality assurance in our basic education sector and the role of all of us in it.
Thank you, Rashidat. In the same vein, the Executive Secretary of UBEC, Dr. Hamid Boboyi, visited Jigawa State to inspect some projects under construction in the state. Our correspondent, Habibu Hussaini, was on his entourage.
This is Gadadin Primary School in Dusa local government area of Jigawa State. One of the schools benefited from the direct intervention of UBEC in an effort to realize the federal government education change agenda to make education, basic education in particular, accessible to all Nigerians. Jigawa State accessed about 1.4 billion naira UBEC intervention in 2017, with similar amount expected to be granted to the state this year. These interventions and commitment of the state government have encouraged enrollment in schools, thereby supporting the nation's effort at making education accessible to all. Executive Secretary UBEC, Dr. Hamid Boboyi, expressed satisfaction with the judicious utilization of the intervention in Jigawa State, assuring commitment to continue to support the state in many areas.
That, the partnership between UBEC and the federal government and the SUBEB and the Jigawa state government will continue, isn't it, And I'm very hopeful that it will move the education sector forward. I'm also very glad to see the issue, to at least, the issue of the effective school programs. It's a wonderful program where efforts are made to ensure that our schools are effective all around in terms of the infrastructure, in terms of teaching and learning, isn't facilities that are supposed to be there, in terms of the training of teachers within the system. I think this is something that we will do whatever we can within the law and within the ability of UBEC to enhance, that particular cooperation, particularly in the area of teachers.
Chairman SUBEB, Jigawa State, Alhaji Salus Zakar, said the state is always ready to release its counterpart funds to support the Commission in its programs designed to improve the standard of education in the country.
So we will seize this opportunity to thank the ES for having time to come to Jigawa and to show him that this intervention that we are having at the basic level is really making impact. And we are seeing a lot of the impact. And I'm sure the ES has seen a lot of the impacts, and we hope next time, in due course, to invite him for another set of visits altogether. Maybe that will be in the area of capacity building and others.
Some school managers were full of praise to both federal and state government for these interventions, saying it will go a long way in decongesting the schools as well as improve the quality of teaching and learning.
Obviously, education is a prerequisite to develop a nation and empower its people, but this can only be realized if all stakeholders join hands to create the enabling environment. Now let's take you to Kano State, where the Universal Basic Education Directors of Social Mobilization met to strategize on how to ensure enrollment of more than 11 million out-of-school children. Let's get details from our correspondent, Fatima Sanusi Karayi.
The phenomenon of out-of-school children in Nigeria has continued to remain a source of concern to both government and concerned stakeholders in the education sector. Successive administrations made series of attempts to address the issue, but it defied solution. Presently, statistics show that there are more than 11 million out-of-school children roaming streets in the country. This, the Buhari administration is determined to change the tide. To achieve this, a document which encapsulates the federal government desire to provide uniform opportunity for all school-age children in the country has been deliberated at a week-long workshop for social mobilization directors of the 36 states of the Universal Basic Education Board.
The workshop is a congregation of all the states' social mobilization officers, and it is intended to sharpen their mobilization skills, inform them of the new strategies of reaching out to the public as regards to basic education delivery in the country.
The entire purpose, the overall purpose, is to facilitate the delivery of basic education through partnership and social mobilization.
The meeting also provided platform for various stakeholders to make positive contributions towards adopting a uniform approach in policy implementation by the 36 states of Universal Basic Education Board.
We are sure that they are going to give us the instrument with which to work with. The knowledge we are going to acquire here will help us to discharge our work in our various departments to achieve best practices and improve and enhance our capacity and skills so that we can go and deliver in our respective states.
Challenges we are facing is lack of funding. Like social mobilization needs fund that in terms of capacity building so that SBMC will work more trained to go to the
overcoming their rights to
of children, mainly to make sure that whatever you do in terms of achieve what we support.
The Buhari administration says the success of this laudable program. And now to Lafia, construction of new model schools are underway across the country as part of federal government's effort to promote conducive learning environment. And this cheering news to people of Nasarawa State is that the state is selected for the pilot project among 5 other states that make up the geopolitical zone. Joshua Ojito in this report tells us how the commission intends to walk the talk.
Findings show there are growing concerns by stakeholders on the falling standard of education in the country, which many attribute to decayed infrastructure and lack of qualified teachers. It is against this background that the Universal Basic Education Commission, UBEC, is adopting a new school model for all public schools in the country. The team for the project is already in Nasarawa State to intimate the state government of the project expected to take off soon. Under the project, a comprehensive school with facilities for nursery, primary and junior secondary school, as well as those with special needs, will be provided. Also, the new model schools will be ICT-driven. Team leader Professor Masood Abdul Karim solicits the support of state government towards the realization of the project.
Even if the infrastructure is not there, the teacher is in the center of education to impart quality education to the child. And it is in this vein that UBEC will not allow this school to be handled alone by the states. It will be a joint project with UBEC, so that the state-of-the-art technology that will be equipped to these schools, UBEC will monitor full implementation until such a time, maybe after 10 years, when they see that capacity has been built and the teachers, facilities, monitoring, sustenance has been established before they will hand over the schools to the SPEBs. And it is to be equipped with digital technology, so that both the hardware and the software component, the courseware, will be loaded, so that somebody even in a different continent can teach in this school.
I look at the traffic towards public schools, and I discovered it was only school for those that could not afford to take their children to better schools. That was when we initiated the idea of Ta'al Model School. Way back in 2012. We made our studies in 2011, and by 2012, we were ready with a customized plan for a model school that could compete with any private school within the vicinity of Nasarawa State. I'm happy to say that as of today, we have constructed more than 80 of such schools across the states.
Now, to show how serious and committed Nasarawa State government is on this proposal, is the donation of 6 hectares piece of land to my right, which is directly opposite Lafia Comprehensive School, catering for children with special needs. I think it is a good decision for the schools to be in one place.
Thank you, Joshua. Well, that is basic education today. We thank you for being a part of it. Remember, providing quality education to Nigerian children is the duty of all. So make sure you do your part optimally. Do like our Facebook account and follow us on Twitter at Basic Edu Today. Bye for now.
I am Adeola Omokibi, and the program you're watching is Sports Real. Keep a date with us.
Fans, they don't understand the rules or the laws of the game.
Hello and welcome to that program of yours on the NTA Sports Channel, Knowing Golf.
Thanks for joining us on another edition of Sports Guest on the NTA. My name is Kenem Emma Abodike. Welcome indeed to Saturday Sports Arena on the NTA Sports 24.
It would not be if you continue to just have these vague means of saying things are the yardsticks I want to use.
League Service, a program designed to bring you up to speed with happenings in Nigerian football leagues.
If you hear a bomb explosion or gunshots of an active shooter, that might be a terror attack. At such times, always remember 3 action words: run, hide, report. Don't try to run towards the terror scene to save the situation, because there might be a second bomb blast or another attack. Run far away and take cover. Make sure you are safe first. Yes, it is in our nature to sympathize over the hurt, but remember, only trained personnel can help in such situations. When in a secured environment, promptly call relevant authorities and help will come. For anonymous reporting, call 09630-3250-5 or 0813-2222-106. If you see something, say something. Nigeria unite against terrorism. This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
You are watching NTA, Nigerian Television Authority. For more information and news updates, visit our website at www.nta.ng, or you can follow us on Twitter at NTA News Now, or you can like us on Facebook at NTA Network News. Stay connected on our YouTube channel at www.youtube.com/NTA News Online. Watch our live stream at www.nta.ng/live. NTA, you can't beat the rich.
Thank you for staying with us on Good Morning Nigeria. Now, to kickstart our conversation on restructuring of the Special Anti-Robbery Squad, SARS, here is Abdul Malik Adio with a background report.
Established by the Nigerian police, the Special Anti-Robbery Squad, SARS, was set up to combat violent crimes and criminality in Nigeria. Domicile under the Criminal Investigating Department, CID, the highest investigating arm of the Nigerian police force, SARS developed from these forces and now has a nationwide decree under the Nigerian Federal Police Force to confront violent crimes such as armed robbery, kidnapping, and communal clashes. However, the activities of SARS seem to derail from its original mandate. This followed growing complaints of alleged brutality and human rights abuses by some Nigerians. This includes alleged sexual harassment, extortion, wrongful arrest, and unlawful detention, as well as torture. This uproar prompted some Nigerians who took to protest on both conventional and social media with the hashtag #EndSARS campaign. The Inspector General of Police took some steps to reform the operations of SARS. However, the unlawful activities of the operatives seems unabated.
Psychometric tests, training and continuous assessment of operatives deployed to SARS in keeping with acceptable standards operating procedures. Prohibition of conducting stop and search on roads unless where necessary. Provision of SARS operatives to act as bodyguards, delving into land matters, personal disputes, debt collection, and matters that are considered civil. I just want to warn here very, very seriously, if we find any commander involved in this nonsense, we are going to take immediate and appropriate action against that officer.
This prompted the acting president, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, to issue an order directing the Inspector General of Police to overhaul SARS with immediate effect and the nation's Human Rights Commission to investigate the allegations. While this is a positive news, experts say it is crucial that the overhaul of the Special Anti-Robbery Squad is far-reaching and immediately effective to end series of torture, unlawful detention, extortion, and other serious human rights violations that SARS officers have been levied with over the years. How can SARS be restructured for efficiency? Should SARS be scrapped? These are questions yearning for answers on Good Morning Nigeria.
All right, thank you very much, Abdul Malik Adio, for that background report. Now, we have guests at our Lagos Network studios and also here in Abuja. First, let's go back to Lagos and introduce our guests. You can see right there on the screen, that's the retired Assistant Inspector General of Police, Bala Hassan. Retired AIG Bala Hassan, who is also a lawyer. Pleasure to have you join us on Good Morning Nigeria today.
much. Good morning, Nigeria.
And with him as well in our Lagos Network studios is Dr. Ona Ehomo, familiar face on Good Morning Nigeria. Is President, National Association of Industrial Security and Safety Operators of Nigeria. Dr. Ehomo, pleasure to have you join us from our Lagos Network Center.
Good morning, sir.
All right, Joy, let's have your little blessing.
Yes, and here in our Abuja studio, we have the Acting Deputy Commissioner of Police and Force Public Relations Officer, Jimoh Moshood. It's good to have you join us on the program this morning.
Thank you for having me. Good morning, Nigerians.
Also in the studio is a familiar face on Good Morning Nigeria, Kabir Adamu, Security Risk Management Expert. It's a pleasure to have you join us on the program this morning.
It is my pleasure to be here.
Thank you for joining us. Now, let's start with PRO Jimoh. Let's look at the initial concept of SARS. Give us a vivid and good picture of what SARS is all about.
Thank you so much. The Special Anti-Robbery Squad has been known before. Now have been reformed to Federal SARS. This unit have been the strike force of the force. We have so many strike forces, such as the Police Mobile Force, the Counter-Terrorist Unit, the Special Protection Unit, and the others have been carrying out core police duty in ensuring that violent crimes are brought to the bearers in the country. SARS history is for more than 40 years now, for over four decades, and they have been making significant progress from the period of Anini to the period of recently of Vampires, of Evans, and of Oro and the likes. And there's no doubt that they have made significant progress in ensuring that we rake in criminal elements, especially those who brutalizes their victims, that engage in armed robbery, kidnapping, cattle rustling, and the likes. But we are equally mindful of the SSs of this organization, of this outfit, and that is why the force put in motion check and balances. We have the escort of the force that go around the country to check what this outfit is doing, and equally the IG monitoring is equally there. Then we brought in on board civil society organization and other NGO, both local and foreign, to go into retraining and retraining of SARS personnel to make their comfort to conform with the dictate of the law. Mind you, when the Inspector General of Police came on board, IGP Ibrahim Putu Idris and PM MNI, like we are watching the footage, he rearranged another set of training for SARS personnel and equally directed the evaluations of their conduct. Before you are drafted into SARS personnel, into SARS outfit, you must have served at least 5 years in service, and you must have gone around through the other department of the force where you carry out core police duties, such as PMF, such as counter-terrorism and others, so that you'll be able to act and professionally and be able to carry out the duty that's expected of you. We equally we created an outlet for people to lodge in their complaint, part of which maybe in the course of the program I'll be able to reel out. When you bring in somebody into the Special Anti-Robbery Squad, the kind of training you give him is what makes him different from the conventional police personnel. You heighten his level of alertness and his level of strict and swift response to situation. So in this wise, we are making significant progress in this regard. But of late, when there are outcry and any decision or any policy that is not in the public interest is not a good one. And that is why the Inspector General of Police, based on the issue of NSAS campaign, look inward and set up a committee to look at the SSs of the SARS and to investigate all the activities based on complaints that have been coming from members of the public. But we have discovered that quite a number of those complaints are actually not genuine. Some are genuine, and officers that were found to be culpable were tried within and dismissed out of the force. Some were prosecuted. Recently, the AIG Institute in Lagos dismissed 4 of the officers after informing the Inspector General of Police of their conduct, and they are being prosecuted as we speak. But of late, recently, I think about 2 to 3 days ago, there's a presidential directive for overhauling of such, and the Inspector General of Police have directed immediate compliance, and we have reeled out all these reform strategies and agenda in the implementation of this. One of it is the appointment of a Commissioner of Police in charge of Federal SARS, who is going to be answerable to the Inspector General of Police through the Deputy Inspector General of Police operation. And we have taken SARS out of the Criminal Intelligence Investigation Department to the Federal operation that will be under the DI We did this to be able to, for people to know that transparency in the activities, for them to know that if an agency or if a unit is under a department, for example, and they're still complaining, there's need to take them completely off the department. That does not stop them from gathering intelligence, because intelligence comes from the people, it comes from the locals. And as carrying out general duties, you can be drafted to intelligent driven. Created an human rights desk office in every state where such an officer will take in complaint. And such an officer is not answerable to the commander SARS at the state level, but is answerable to the Commissioner of Police SARS, Federal SARS at the First Secretary level. These are part of the initiative introduced. And lastly, the Inspector General of Police have directed that a medical psychological evaluation should be carried out on all personnel of SARS to find out those who are suitable and to take out those who are not suitable to other lesser duty that probably will be in the interest of the public. And he has equally directed that the Chief Superintendent of Police, and not below the rank of Superintendent of Police, should be the Commander of SARS at the state level. So as you speak, the committee are fine-tuning and implementing this arrangement. Quite a number of those dictates have been accomplished and others are being dealt with. And equally, when we give out the phone number of the civil society organization, the human rights group, including Mr. Shegun Adesanya, who created the hashtag #EndSARS, is equally included on board, so that people will know that any complaint we receive are going to be dealt with appropriately. So we are doing this, and it's in the best interest of the country, because as we are doing this, we have to be mindful also of the criminal element that may want to get into this reform that is ongoing. So we will ensure that the presidential directive in this regard is fully complied with.
All right. Thank you very much, First Public Relations Officer. Let's go over to Lagos as well and now get the views of Bala Hassan, who is a retired Assistant Inspector General of Police. You can see him there in suit. Retired AIG Bala Hassan, tell us something. I mean, those who are sufficiently old enough would recall the atrocities of armed robbers in the country before kidnapping also became rife. A number of names you can drop easily. There was Lawrence Anini and his gang in the old Bendel. There was also Shina Rambo in the Lagos and other parts of Western Nigeria. And then if you also now brought in kidnapping, you find all kinds of names, Osisi Kanku, Vampire, Oru, and several others. But how and when did SARS lose its way?
Well, good morning, Nigeria. The history of SARS dates back to early 80s when Etim Iyang of blessed memory was the Inspector General of Police. I think there was a time he came to the first headquarters and gathered all officers, and as their normal briefing, and told them that the rate of robbery was getting high, that the Supreme Council was not comfortable. They have to look for a solution to it. It was then that the Fulani Kwajafa, now in his 80s, mid-80s, was selected to form a unit to ensure that rate of robbery is brought to the nearest minimum in the Lagos area. And that was the origin of SARS, Special Anti-Robbery Squad. He was given all the statistics, he was given the personnel, and that was how they started reducing robbery, not only in Lagos, but throughout Nigeria. But however, what we've seen today now is, of course, we need SARS to prevent crime, to prevent violent activities. Nobody in Nigeria has complained that SARS is not doing well, because without SARS, there will have been a lot of serious robberies, serious chaos and anarchy in the land. But SARS have been substantially being able to reduce rate of crime in Nigeria. However, the cry about members of the public is the activities, other activities that are not known to law, like maybe extrajudicial killing, extortion, and the like. These are the major cries. So it was timely for the president exercising his powers under Section 215(3) of the Constitution to give lawful directives to the Inspector General for him to carry out, give out instructions for public order to be maintained in Nigeria, and that is how these reforms come about. So it's hoped that the steps taken by the IG will assure members of the public, general public, Nigerians, that this reform is carried to the logical conclusion, and Nigerians get the better of it, because you can't. The idea of scrapping SARS is unthinkable. However, once they do the things within the confines of Chapter 4 of the 1999 Constitution, I'm sure Nigerians will be happy with the work of SARS. You know, after this early 80s, you talk of Anini saga. It was the SARS that brought the Anini saga to its end. You know, all robberies across the major robberies across the country have been done by SARS. As a commissioner of police in Borno State in those days, 7 years ago, I knew that SARS substantially helped in reducing crime. They don't only reduce crime in Borno then, but assisted in fighting Boko Haram. So SARS is doing a very, very great job in Nigeria. It needs to be encouraged. The only thing, the instruction of the IG should be carried, the president should be carried out, acting president should be carried out to the logical conclusion.
Retired AIG Bala Hassan, still staying with you, and it's a follow-up to Kingsley's question. You know, before we move ahead, there's a need to check and find out where we went wrong so that it will guide us as we move forward. Where exactly did we get it wrong? Was there not a monitoring team to investigate and find out where they were doing wrong to bring them back? Where did we go wrong?
Well, I believe in the selection of people who head these SARS units. Probably that's what went wrong, because for you to head a SARS unit, you must have the fear of God. So that if you have that, and you must be dedicated to your duty, you must be able to monitor, know where your men are at any given time. Most of these people who do illegal duty is not known to the head of SARS, because I don't expect a senior officer of the rank of CSP to send them to go and be arresting people and taking them to ATM and withdrawing money. So I believe it boils down to the selection of officers. Now that we are in this issue of reform, we should get God-fearing officers to put them to head these departments, and also people who are dedicated, who are ready to work 24 hours a day. Once you do that, you should keep a check on the men. Anytime they close from duty, you must be able to collect their arms and keep them in custody. We don't allow officers to carry arms to their household. If they carry it to household one, the risk of being stolen in the household is there, and also there's likelihood for somebody to get other people to go and carry out illegal duty. So where I think we went wrong is the selection of people who are supposed to head these departments. We should select people who have fear of God, who are competent, who are fearless, who are ready to deliver. You could see when I told you about Fulani Kwajafa was chosen because of his integrity. At a stage, they were saying that he had only primary 4. And he had to tell the IG that you don't use degree to arrest armed robbers, that he was competent. The IG should try him then. And when they try Fulani Kwajafa, you cannot write the history of armed robbery or SARS in Nigeria without mentioning the retired CP Fulani Kwajafa. Probably it's because of the antecedent he was made to head the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency after his retirement. So where I think we must have got it wrong was the appointment. You don't appoint somebody to head SARS based on sentiment. Get somebody who is dedicated to duty, who has fear of God, who is ready to monitor the activities at all times.
Thank you very much, retired AIG Bala Hassan. And we're still staying in Lagos. Let's bring in quickly Dr. Ona Ehomo, the President, National Association of Industrial Security and Safety Operators of Nigeria. Let's get your views about SARS, what SARS was like and where we got it all wrong.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Well, I think Oga AIG here has said, SARS was set up to solve a very important problem of violent crime at the time, armed robbery, which transformed or which enlarged to kidnapping, and now we have headers conflict, we have terrorism. You know, all the range of threats, what we call the threatscape, is so large, is so broad, that this kind of an organization, like Mr. Moshood described it, a strike force. It's like what we call a tactical unit. It's a special weapons and tactical unit that will have the capability to deliver great violence, to very violent subjects, to put them down. That is what you need, because your regular black shirt, that's the regular policeman on the street, cannot carry out this kind of very high-stress job. They don't have the training. They don't have the weaponry. If they go there, the bad guys will turn them into mincemeat. So we really need it, and we do need till today, till tomorrow, despite Shegu Additional's NSAS campaign, we still need SARS to combat very violent criminals, very violent subjects. Now, having said that, I agree with AIG that we went wrong at the point of where perhaps management of the people. I wouldn't say really because the officers are not, the people who are managing them are not God-fearing. I think it's just a case of negligent supervision. And then a case of perhaps impunity. People were doing things and nobody was asking them. They were perhaps above the law. Or in fact, they became the law. And so that is where we got it wrong. And so I think it's unfortunate that we're having this conversation, because crime and criminality is in fact increasing. And we should be looking at how to bring it under control. So I think, having said that, we really need to help the IGP, help the police agency with ideas, with suggestions that will improve these reforms, the overhaul that the acting president mandated and that the IG has started, such that we'll have a safer and saner country, and such that the much needed foreign investments will come in here, so that our youth will get employed and get off being criminals.
Thank you very much. We'll return to you, gentlemen, when we start dealing, of course, with aspects, evaluating the aspects of the reforms that already been undertaken by the police authorities. But before then, Kabir Adamu, let's have your own take on what went wrong with SARS and what is required to be done in terms of rejigging.
Yeah, I'll ride on what my fellow discussants have mentioned. My perspective is on the systems and the processes that were introduced to ensure that the objectives for which the SARS was set up was achieved. And in this regard, I think the absence of a code of conduct and a standard operating procedure in a transparent manner that would allow for monitoring was clearly missing in the manner the SARS was being run. I'm very happy to note that in the directive given by the IGP, he's mentioned that new codes of conduct and standard operating procedures will be introduced. And to that extent, if we agree that the reason why SARS was introduced is to stop kidnapping and armed robbery, then I think that standard operating procedures and code of conduct should be clear and transparent in the achievement of that stated objective.
Now, apart from the, sorry, Kingsley, follow-up, apart from the code of conduct, in terms of training and retraining, considering what we see in developed economies, do we have that kind of training here in Nigeria from a professional perspective? Let's hear from you.
From my understanding, unfortunately, no. I'm very happy that the intention is there. I mean, every senior police officer that you sit down with would tell you in clear terms that this is what he wants to achieve. And the IGP, the current IGP, consistently mentions training. Even our president, President Buhari, if we go back to his inaugural speech in May 2015, he identified training as a key issue in the police and other security agencies. So there is that realization. But unfortunately, turning that realization to reality has been our challenge. And in that regard, I'm very happy to note that the IGP has mentioned he's engaging with foreign counterparts to assist in this training. Let's remember that the US, UK, and other governments emphasizes the point around human rights. And most of the accusations regarding the operations of SARS, as it is before the directive to overhaul it, has to do with human rights. So if we engage these countries, I see potential where they will be willing to invest in training. Now, the other component of training will be the tactical as well as their operations in the field. So that area, I think we need to have more capacity, both within the police and then from the private individuals that would come in to assist the police. And I'm happy to note that industrial security in Nigeria has reached a stage where someone like me, Dr. Una, and several other practitioners will be happy to partner with the police to support them in the both tactical and operational components of the operations of SARS.
All right, Kabir, thanks. Let's bring in again the Force Public Relations Officer. Now, for a better understanding of the emerging rebranded federal SARS, can we have an insight into what went on before? Of course, the allegation is rife that the old SARS became, as it were, a law unto themselves. How were the SARS in the past organized? Was it every DPO who could set up his own SARS? Was it every state police command that could set up his own SARS?
Thank you so much. In the last arrangement, like our respectable retired IGP, Balasan Afra said in the 80s it was formed. AIG retired Fulani Kwajafa was in charge and is still living. They're solving one or two minor health issues. If not, we'll have been able to ask him to plead with him to be here so that he can give an insight into it. It wasn't for all comma, even the old SARS, before we moved through the federal SARS. But the bottom is that if you know of recent, there are a lot of issues, essentials of democracy, which allow people to express their freedom, their right of this and right of that as enshrined and defended in the Constitution. And you can see criminals becoming more emboldened. If you look at what happened to us in Nasarawa too long ago, that over hundreds of police personnel were killed, is quite fresh in our memory also, and our heart goes to their family. And when you look at what happened in Gwaladima roundabout, where 7 police personnel were killed, and equally that of Edo, Sabongida Ora, where police patrol vehicles were ambushed and they were attacked, the tank control busted, and all of them were burnt alive. Then you call it happen what happened. Even the special intelligence response team of the IGP, after making arrest of kidnappers who kidnapped one Sheikh in Kaduna, and they were ambushed. The team repelled the ambush and 4 of them lost their life. You know, all this sends signals to the personnel of SARS to be on guard, because if a vehicle is coming and you are flashing down a vehicle for the road check, you don't know whether you are going to leave after flashing down something, because the criminal knows you, you don't know the criminal. So there's tendency for you to be on guard, and somebody will say you are harassing the person. You have to protect yourself. The rifle issued to you by the police authority is for one, to protect your life and to protect the rifle before you start protecting other people. So this sent a sort of signal to even the SARS person to be at alert and on the defensive all the time. So, and when you now go beyond that, because there are operational procedures, no doubt, because before, like I said, before you are recruited, you must have spent 5 years or above in other area. If you are of a certain age, you are not recruited into SARS. But when you train the mind of an officer to the level of withstanding vicious armed robbers or kidnappers, then you have taken his mind out of the ordinary. Then you have to carry out a check and balances on regular basis to be able to curtail its excesses. But to answer your question appropriately, so those kind of incidences have some certain psychological effect on the personnel, and we try to go even on training, even before the issue of reform. But like I said, when the IG came on board, he arranged reform for them. But when we train them not to become emotional, because when you become emotional, if you see a suspect that this is the person that have raped so person, and the person confessed, or this person that have robbed another victim, and you saw him, you know, there's tendency as human being to become emotional. So part of the training is to train them that, look, you have to judge, even if somebody have killed 10 people, you shouldn't carry out a judicial killing on it. But when you send such people to court, for example, and you get the suspect being recycled, like let's take the case of One Chance. One Chance people are people that start approaching you with the issue of money, dollars, and other things. But when you fail to dance to their tune and they know you are wise, they strangulate you. And these are people that you to court, and at the end of the day, you still find them on the street less than 3 months. And even if the judge or the magistrate that want to, the judge that will attend to it, since a violent crime, that will attend to such a matter, will look at your ways, okay, the suspect is remanded to prison custody. And when the matter comes for hearing, subsequently, they granted bail. Those who robbed the bureau in Abuja, some of them were immediately released, not to a year. And these people went back and started kidnapping women, mostly from the metro in Abuja, and taking them to Sile, getting ransom. And these people are equally arrested. So that is why all organs, including the Nigerian police force, the judiciary, and others that are involved in the criminal justice system, should know that it is not quite easy to get an armed robber arrested. And it is not quite easy to take the process of investigation. And when you take such a person to court, and the person gets released back, so you recycle suspect, and these people will come more vicious, more emboldened. So what has happened to their colleagues is something that have a psychological effect on their mind. But we are putting a check and balances in place. That is why the escort of the force have been going around to check the activities of this personnel. But that does not mean it's not enough to violate the rights of every Nigerian. But to a criminal, a policeman that's a robber is an enemy. And to a policeman, every person is innocent. And in the process of not being on guard, not being an alert, then you lose your life. And when you lose your life, you can't replace them. And that is why the operation of SARS is to a large extent differ from the conventional operation.
All right, first PRO, thank you very much. Let me return to Lagos. Retired AIG Bala Hassan, I would like you to dwell more on the aspect of the question relating to how the SARS as we knew it was organized. I asked, was it that every DPO could have his own SARS? Was it that every area commander could have his own SARS, or every state police command? And therefore, to whom did SARS report? Before we understand the new arrangement of federal SARS, what was the reporting line, and how of course, to the extent that you can disclose this, how were infractions dealt with, along the chain of command?
Well, in days gone by, there was, as I earlier said, there was no SARS. The State Criminal Investigation Department had its own anti-robbery section, whether they call it D5 or D4 as the case may be. So they deal with anti-robbery. But with the growth of, with the provision of robbery operations within Lagos, Axis, Benin, when you talk about during the Anini era of 1986, the need to have SARS became imperative. So some commands have their own special anti-robbery squads in addition to the conventional anti-robbery state CID. This was how this thing was done. So when I was in Edo, I had a SARS team that contributed immensely to making Edo safe for the people, especially in terms of robbery of banks. Most robberies in banks are carried out from 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m., and SARS is your last line of defense. Without the SARS, there is no way. Even the armed robbers have that psychological fear of special anti-robbery squad. So each command then was having its own special anti-robbery squad, different from the one anti-robbery and state CID. But the state SARS under the CP is one that is the strike force of each command. So they report to the Commissioner of Police, and he deploys and supervises them. But this new arrangement now portends that there will be the head of SARS will be in Abuja, who will be reporting to the DIG. So all the other SARS commanders of the Federation will be reporting direct to the Commissioner of Police in charge of social anti-robbery. But the snag there is probably the chain of command may be longer. And when the chain is longer, there may be problem. I remember when I was in Lagos as a young officer, there was a robbery taking place at Ikoyi. The man didn't know any person. He called the villa called the IG, the IG called the AIG in Zone 2, the AIG Zone 2 called the CP called the DPO. Before the DPO reached there, DPO Ikoyi reached there. This happened at Dofo Estate. The robbers have escaped. So what are we saying? We are saying that command is less. Instead of reporting to a CP in Abuja, probably it should be shorter. for more efficient supervision. By and large, you can see that the arrangement where CP exercise controls over Special Anti-Robbery Squad, in my view, may have been better than the present arrangement. However, I believe the IG who knows where it pinches has a wider vision of what is on the ground now. This is why he made this arrangement. But if they seek my opinion, the other arrangement whereby a CP has control over the SARS at its own area will be very, very imperative and very, much better for control of the activities of SARS. But however, I think that even at the present arrangement which the IG is trying to do, the CP of a command is not entirely divulged from the activities of his SARS in his area. He should still exercise some either administrative operational control over them while reporting to his commander in the headquarters.
Wondering, retired AIG, thank you very much. Dr. Ona Okomo, let's still stay with you gentlemen in Lagos. At a time when there is a clamor for operational decentralization, does Nigeria need a federal SARS at this time? I mean, if you say that you have to drill down to the local level, the municipal level, to be able to deal with these stated offenses or criminalities, armed robbery and kidnapping, why then are you now going to have a solitary commissioner of police who is the commander? And as the retired AIG was talking, if the chain of command is rather too long, would that not likely impact on efficiency and effectiveness?
Yeah. Thank you very much, Honorable Kingsley. I think the problems are glaring because it creates an administrative bottleneck. This is pure administration now. We know that when the chain of command is too lengthy, it creates, a cog in the wheel of efficiency. Now, aside from that, the problem that SARS had, like AIG Hassan just said, is not one of the command structure. The problem was operational, perhaps programmatic. So what does that mean? We look at programmatic means, operational means. Okay, sure, it had administrative problems, mostly in terms of resourcing, kind of training, where they getting tactical training. Kabir has just said in the studio there that he doesn't think that they get enough tactical training. They get shoot, no shoots training. They don't get that. Do they have built up urban environments where they carry out actual tactical exercises? No, there's no time for exercise because there are too many armed robbers and kidnappers. So they're always on the go. Now, what about other? Let's go to programmatic issues. Psych. I think the FPRO just mentioned the psych evaluation. And he mentioned very well about the stress level. I think I have a release out in the past today about this issue. And I spoke about the stress level. Policing is very stressful. It's extremely stressful. You see a lot of things, let's just put it that way. You see humanity at its lowest level. Many things go very wrong. Look at the people at Sabon Gaura, the one that happened on July 14th that he spoke about. These guys were shot dead and then put in their vehicle, patrol vehicle, and burnt to ashes. So it agitates my mind. Who did that kind of a thing? And what was their motivation for doing that? So, these are police personnel being killed. Galadimawa, he spoke about, Briningwari, of the IRT ambush in Kaduna, in the course of making an arrest. And this thing goes on and on. So what I'm saying is we have a real problem now where even police personnel are being victimized. They are being targeted. So but let's leave that. Policing is very stressful. So people go home a lot with stress in their mind. They go home with heavy, very negative images. Of course, the court systems are not helping, like DCP has said. And so these guys have to be programmed. So we need to do a lot of psychological. We need to do counseling. One of the things I called for was to have a review, an IA Internal Affairs review every projectile encounter. Every time a policeman goes out there, he discharges his weapon. He must go back to a unit in the office that does an evaluation with him and kind of resolves it with him psychologically. So so you need to get people with those kinds of skills to help police people walk through their stress, because they are human beings and they carry these images with them. Some of them have post-traumatic stress disorder. They can't sleep well. They dream of all kinds of terrible things, and sometimes they go out and act out these things also in public. So it's really unfortunate, but I'm happy that the reform is on, the overhaul is on, the restructuring is on, and hopefully we'll get our rhythm right. But before I give it back to you, Mr. Kingsley, I just want to say that when you have an important thing like this for an agency or for a unit that has been in existence for so long, 40 years, there should be a little bit more thought going into the kind of restructuring that we're going to do. I don't think a knee-jerk reaction will serve us well. Yes, I know IG has been working on this problem for a while because the complaints have been there. Amnesty International has been making a lot of grouse with us. But I think now that the presidential directive has come through, we should probably take a little bit of time and work on it. That's the police agency, the police conical apex should take a little bit of time, work on it before they come up with the final product that Nigerians will enjoy.
Very much, Dr. Ona Ehomo from Lagos. We'll return back to Lagos shortly, but let's bring in quickly Kabir here. I want you to analyze what they've just talked about. For me, the crux of the matter is about operational issues. What are your views on that?
Firstly, the directive by the acting president is to overhaul. And unfortunately, the journalist who gave us the report by the IG, I know he's in trouble right now, did not give us the whole content of the directive. So I would emphasize the word that this is work in progress. The IG has listed a couple of things he will do. We've not yet heard from the acting president whether he's happy with these steps taken by the IG. To answer your question directly, I will mention one key word, which is intelligence. It is at the core of operations. And unfortunately, under our current set, there are a lot of lapses in terms of the gathering, in terms of the analysis, as well as the dissemination of intelligence. Part of what we have been advocating, and even President Buhari has severally mentioned this, is to see a pool of intelligence between all the security agencies. Now, if this is done in the right manner, I see nothing wrong with the central, management unit for the activities of the federal SARS, but it should be intelligence-driven. Now, that is the promise by the IG of police, but I'm very worried that, given what I know about the police and the other security agencies, we're not yet doing anything in that regard. And I'll be very specific. How do we collect this intelligence? Where do we pool the intelligence? And then more importantly, how is that intelligence being used? I'll try to explain this. So you have 700 plus local governments in the country. You have police units in all of these local governments. Let's take it down to the civil defense. They have their units. The DSS have their units. All of these organizations, quote and unquote, collect information, collect intelligence. What do they do with it? Who has custody of that intelligence? And then how can this new commissioner who is in charge of SARS make use of this intelligence to deploy the assets he has? Unless and until we do that, then the operations of this unit, unfortunately, will be clogged by the administrative bureaucracy that we mentioned.
All right, Kabir, gentlemen, we're taking a short break now. When we return, we focus again on some of the aspects of the new reforms of what is now being referred to as federal SARS, and whether, in fact, federal SARS is desirable at a time when there is a clamor for decentralization of the police force. Let's take a short break now.
Nigerians. Suicide bombers are not spirits. They are not ghosts. They are human beings like you and me. They live amongst us. They are your neighbors. They are your friends today, terrorists tomorrow. So you must know your neighbor now. Security begins with you and me. Know your neighbor. Be vigilant. Be security conscious. Report suspicious persons, objects, and movements to the police and other security agencies. The security of our nation is a duty for you and me.
If you see something, say something. Nigeria, unite against terrorism. This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
Can I see your particulars, sir?
Officer, my particulars no dey here.
In that case, you'll have to come with me to the police station.
Officer, which levels? Where I for find you something make you take arrange your weekend.
What? Offense number 1, driving without particulars. Offense number 2, trying to bribe an officer of the law.
I won't harass Nigerians or take bribe. Change begins with me.
This message is brought to you by the National Orientation Agency in conjunction with the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
All right, you're welcome back, and it's still Good Morning Nigeria. We're reaching you on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. I would like us to return to our guests in Lagos to still dwell on the issue of whether federal SARS is desirable at this time, considering the fact that 774 local government areas, 36 states. If you add the Federal Capital Authority, that's 37. I don't know how many area commands that there are. You're not going to have a sole authority, as it were, who is a commissioner of police to be in charge of what has now been rechristened as federal SARS. Gentlemen, let's take a look at this. I asked the question earlier. What was wrong, for instance, with the operational utilization, command and control of SARS as we knew it versus what is coming on board now? And bear in mind that at the federal level, that's to say at the police headquarters, there is an Inspector General of Police team headed by Abba Kyari. It's also been very effective. I mean, it goes into, shall we say, very tight situations, and, you know, it gets the situations resolved, even when you have the local SARS. So, but if you are now having a single command at Abuja, how is that going to aid efficiency? I want to ask that question again. Let's begin with Dr. Onaihomo.
Thank you very much, Honorable Kingsley. Well, I think I have a bit of a problem with it because I see the new order, the new federal SARS, as counterintuitive. Now, I have said in this your program several times that what we really need to do here in this country is to govern all space in the country. Let no space be ungoverned. Because that's what the bad guys are looking for. Kidnappers need stash houses, they need safe houses, they need operating space, they even need practice area to ply their trade. Armed robbers, the same thing. They must have a place to go and share their money before they go and enjoy it, and you know, so on and so forth. So we have a lot of you know, those kinds of scenarios. Now, what is going on here is that bringing everything back into Abuja, I think, well, it appears the IG, I just want to see if I can read what we call policy intent from what the IG is doing. I think it appears he wants to see to it that SARS is working well, and so he wants it to be closed. He wants to keep it closed. But the reality on ground is that you really need to let this thing go, but now bring in good administrative, programmatic, and perhaps even like Mr. Kabir was saying, technological controls that will make this thing work. What are technological controls, for example, you might ask? What about software, incident management software? We have all kinds of cases everywhere in this country. Let's get software that will help us do policing, do crime mapping, do incident mapping, get command and control software that will help us manage incidents, violent incidents everywhere, and let these things be fed. Let these things, the information be fed into the computer, so it provides ability to predict even the next event and also learn from events that have occurred, such that our people can be more effective. So that's a technological approach. What a programmatic? Well, there are so many things we have said here about the programs. But let me go to one element which I think I have a big problem with too, and I state it in my news release that's out in the papers today. The moving of SARS or FSARS now out of FCID into OPS. Now, OPS, they have a lot of work. Their work is a call for service, that's answering distress calls from citizens, patrolling, VIP protection, whatever it is, all the kinds of things that OPS has a lot of work providing, what do you call it, people to escort movements and all that. OPS is very busy. Now, investigation of violent criminal acts and, in fact, tactical response, which, like Mr. Moshood said, is the aim, was the aim of SARS, or is the aim of SARS, providing a strike force, requires the intelligence work room, the intelligence workshop, such that this is where this stuff will be cooked, because that's where the cerebral work will be done. Now, there are two things happening here. Let me quickly say, there's a difference between intelligence and investigation. Now, intelligence is getting the indication, the intercepts that will let you know what is about to happen. Now, investigation is the one where you develop, carry out interviews, do crime scene work, do forensic work, get information from all kinds of informants, such that you can detect who did it, get enough information, get enough evidence, such that you can successfully prosecute in court. Now, that is where most of our cases fall on their faces, because we don't gather enough evidence. We do, SARS gets a lot of confessions, but these confessions are recanted in open court. And so it's a problem. That's why, like he was saying, some of these cases get thrown out most of the time, and people feel bad. But I think we should now focus on scientific policing. So that brings us back again to the cycle of technology-led policing. We need to go back to scientific policing. SARS, like I called for in my thing today, should have crime scene units that will go and do criminalistics work, such that they can bring hard evidence that will put these violent criminals away, or send them to their to their legal death. That's if it's for decapitation. But you know, to have a situation where we are mixing up apples, oranges is a problem. But I think Kabiru said it well. This is a new directive, and this work in progress. We are just starting, and I am sure that it will be fine-tuned, even with input like from people, good people like you. It will be fine-tuned as time goes on.
Very much, Dr. Ona Ehomo. We're still staying in Lagos. I want retired AIG Bala Hassan to also comment on this issue of a single command. Do you think that will change anything?
I said it earlier, if I'm to have my way, the former system may be better, because the centralization will create some longer chains of command. However, if the IG could call this CP, I don't know whether the CP appointed is somebody who has gone through the mill, who has been an anti-robbery man before. CP Special Anti-Robbery, there is a fire on the mountain. What do you need to succeed? X, Y, Z. Anything you need to succeed should be given to that particular commissioner of police, so that he can deliver. So if he fails to deliver, they should fire him, because for the presidency to come in at this stage, which means the matter is really of grave concern to Nigerians. So that CP who is appointed should be asked of what he needs to succeed throughout the federation, especially the flashpoints we are having along Kaduna, Abuja road. That road have been giving problem to Nigerians. So, and there are other areas too, the expressway leading to Ohosu and Ofosu going to Benin. They know the flashpoints. So all these flashpoints are supposed to be monitored, and the person should be given a mandate. Anything the commissioner needs, the IG should give him. If he fails to deliver, then they should show him the way he has failed. They should bring another person. We have many competent police commissioners in Nigeria who knew very much about using computer to solve criminal problems. They should look for them if this one fails. I hope the one IG selected, he knows his team. is the person who can deliver to Nigeria. So let IG call him. I know they say work is in progress. If you are not done, so you should call him and ask whatever he needs should be given to him. If they give him what he needs, he doesn't perform, then definitely he is not fit to hold that office. And of course, when they talk of intelligence-driven, the waylaying of our men, security men, and killing them is rather unfortunate. We expect at a stage not much of SARS to be on the ground, their foot on the ground. We can deploy drones to go to these areas where these people are hiding to come and attack on the highway and get information about them, pass it to government who could go there and route them from where they are. So these are some of the things should be at the table of the new SARS commander. So he should be up and doing and make sure he delivers. If this is what the IG desires, I'm sure it will succeed if they give them all the things they require. But from the situation of things where they are saying that there are 1,560 police stations in Nigeria and you are giving them $500 million to fuel the vehicles. At that rate, only one patrol vehicle will only fuel 1,070 naira per day. How will it reach to patrol Nigerians to give them the SARS they deserve? So these are some of the issues the IG or the National Assembly should look at. Thank you.
AIJ Bala Hassan, thank you very much for your views. So let's bring in again the Force Public Relations Officer with us here in the studios. I still would like to raise this point. I mean, the unitary approach now to SARS operations, calling it federal SARS, again, it probably is not too relevant, but it has to do with prosecution. Armed robbery and kidnapping are state offenses in the first instance. You know, these are not federal offenses. And then in terms of operations, how do you make it more efficient? Honor Ehomo, Doctor, was raising some points with regard to moving it from intelligence and investigation into operations. And yet, at the same time, we say, look, SARS should be intelligence-driven.
Thank you so much. I think it's important you come to me around this time so that I can let you know what we are doing to tackle all those reservations that they have raised in the course of the program. You discover that we have 774 local governments in the country. It's not all of them that have SARS detachment established there. The establishment is in the state, and the state is to ensure that they cover all the area of the state. But the point I come to limelight now for people to know is that the Commissioner of Police of every state of the Federation is a constitutional team, have the right of supervision and administration of all the police detachments in that state. And the Inspector General of Police have continued to re-emphasize and re-echo it to their hearing. Now, you have the police mobile force in every state of the Federation. In fact, you have over 66 mobile squadron across the Federation now, under the supervision of the Commissioner of Police in charge of mobile force at the Force Headquarters, who report to the Inspector General, Deputy Inspector General of Police, who in turn responds to the Inspector General of Police, and their processes for their deployment. There are quite a number of things that we have been doing and that we are going to do in this arrangement that is not for public consumption. So because as we, the civil-minded Nigerians are listening to us, the criminals too are listening. So most of the operational modus and the operandis of this arrangement now will not be close in the air. And I don't want to be pushed to the extent of doing that, because I will not definitely do that, because it will jeopardize all the reform agenda. Then having said that, when you look at the state level, the Commissioner of Police have supervisory role over the SARS in the state. But the SSCs before, like people are pointed out, and that is leading to this reform of a division creating SARS, of the Commissioner of Police creating SARS, which will slow down and cause public outcry, is what is being eradicated. But a lot of things have been put into work as we speak. The IGP doesn't come on his own and come out with this outcome. He called the management team, and he called the CPSAR, called the DIG operation, and we'll look at it properly. The Nigerian police force has so many departments, and these departments are working in synergy. The Force Criminal Intelligence and Investigation Department are there, which the intelligence aspect is led by an Assistant Inspector General of Police. And they have, not only at the Force Headquarters level, they have at the state, they have at...
of how to use our head and come together. So stand up. Let me not sit down and look. To Baba say so.
No sit down look. No sit down look. No sit down look.
Make una no sit down look, oh.
I am Adeola Omokibi, and the program you're watching is Sports Real. Keep a date with us.
Fans, they don't understand. the rules, or the laws of the game.
Hello and welcome to that program of yours on the NTA Sports Channel, Knowing Golf.
And thanks for joining us on another edition of Sports Guest on the NTA. My name is Kenem Emma Abodike. Welcome indeed to Saturday Sports Arena on the NTA Sports 24.
It would not be if we continue to just have these vague means of saying these are the yardsticks I want to use.
League Service, a program designed to bring you up to speed with happenings in Nigeria football leagues.
In 1953, the Federal Institute for Industrial Research, Oshodi, FIRO, was established. Since then, FIRO has been engaged in research work, solving problems and discovering new ways to make life better for Nigerians. These discoveries and research findings must be made available to Nigerian, medium and small-scale enterprises and the international community. And the vehicle to do this is FIRO House, Africa's first industrial TV.
The divisions, they have at the outstation level, those we call those days the CIB personnel, who equally give their report to the DPO and at the same time send it to the headquarters. So all those intelligent reports are going to be accessed and used by federal SARS. And equally of note is that for long, except people don't take time off to read what we have been achieving and what we have been doing, we have the scene of crime expert that are domiciled in every command. This scene of crime expert, when crime is committed, for example, maybe violent crime of murder, of armed robbery and the likes, scene of crime experts go there, tape and gather evidence. And this evidence are used in prosecution. And when you talk of the prosecution in court, it is not the SARS personnel that prosecute. Nigerian police force today, I make bold to say that we stand out to be the single organization that have the highest number of lawyers, including public or private sector. We have the highest number of lawyers to prosecute for us. So this is to ensure that we work in synergy. There's going to be a good synergy and cordial working relationship between all the departments of the force. So the issue of maybe they are intelligent driven or not wouldn't arise. They are going to be intelligent driven based on the intelligence obtained. They have the right equally as a unit to cultivate informant and get information from them. But the intelligent branch of the force, which is at the force headquarters and each command and each division, gather intelligence and forward to them and they act on it. So a commander SARS, for example, in Lagos, doesn't need to call the CP in the force headquarters to engage robbery incident. But what we are saying is that once he's engaging and carrying out, even the issue of this issue that we have in Ikurudu for a very long period of time. Bado boys. Were quenched by SARS, what do you call it, outfit. So
not SARS from Abuja.
No, what I'm saying, they are from Abuja, but they are domiciled in the state. That is why you have federal SARS commander in every state, who should be the rank of a CSP and not below the rank of a superintendent of police, and has all his personnel. So there's not any problem that's going to arise from that, because he's domiciled in the state, he's living in the state, his formation is in the state, he's not in Abuja. But to ensure transparency and to ensure that we keep up, not only the police mover for that is under unitary arrangement to the force headquarters, the special protection unit are equally there in the state, the counter-terrorism unit are equally there in the state, the EOD, the Explosive Ordnance Department of the Force, are equally domiciled in the state, and they are carrying police function in the state, and they are under the supervision of the Commissioner of Police in the state, and the Commissioner of Police in the state have the right to deploy them. But it's only when you give wrong, don't obey lawful, what they call it, instruction.
All traceable to the growing phenomenon of hate speech.
One nation bound in freedom, peace and unity.
Nigeria, one nation, one people.
This is a public service announcement brought to you by NTA.
This is my first experience riding this train. I've heard about it so much all around the city, and I felt I should take a ride and see what it is like.
Actually, I'm surprised that such a development is coming to us.
I would say starting from the people at the ticketing counter, they are very cautious, they are very polite, and they are very professional in offering their service.
I was impressed, so neat,
And actually, you can compare with any type of trend, you know, all over the world. It's the same thing if you get to Dubai. It's the same thing.
I mean, I could not imagine that I'll be going from Edo straight to the airport by train until I'm having the experience now.
I love it. That is why I brought my family to come and enjoy it.
Cool. And I'm discovering a lot of things, and the environment is so clean, and the ACs are cool.
I think if they continue in this manner, it will really go a long way in making a positive projection to our image.
I want to commend the government, federal government, for the initiative to provide these train services. At least for security reasons, we are coming from Kaduna. We are sure we'll arrive at our destination safely.
The ease of transportation from airport to town is subsidized because averagely, whenever you travel coming back to Abuja, the cab fare to town is outrageous. But at least with this subsidized, and there's a lot of safety, I believe, and at least the government is trying, no matter how.
We are long overdue for this kind of infrastructure. But coming at this point, we still thank God. The important thing is to maintain it and to grow upwards from this point.
And I wish to laud the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari in seeing that this project, you know, is a reality.
Please get ready to alight on the right side of the train. Thank you.
These days, people get their news and information from more media sources than ever before. Some of the news and information given are fake, unverified, doctored, and manufactured to create confusion, stir disaffection, and cause disunity. Before you believe or share any news, ask yourself, is this real? Is it from a credible source? Is it verified or verifiable? Fake news is dangerous. Whether you do it for fun or for political gains, real people can get hurt. Fake news, don't create it, don't spread it.
This is a public service announcement from NTA.
You smell differently, somehow masculine.
Mommy, you see, she's a very decent girl. You will like her.
That is not what I'm saying. My point is, how will you wake up one morning and say you want to get married to a girl you just met?
Mommy, we love each other and that is ample for now.
Auntie Jennifer, he's a good man and he takes care of you. Make woman open her brain so that she will not use husband and do boyfriend.
Advisor Momo. Get out of my place.
I came to see someone. Wow.
Stop the car. I'm sorry, Auntie Jennifer. I have to go now. This is an emergency.
Emergency where? What did they do? Setting in the alright, sir. How is it working?
Hold it right there. Hold it.
that is when the SARS commander will say, no, this aspect of thing is not the responsibility. And you know the activities are being reduced to only armed robbery and kidnapping, while the divisional headquarters will carry out other, call police duty in the area of maybe you have complaint of maybe assault, you have complaint of any disturbance anywhere. They are not going to be used for escort or probably for crowd control or probably to engage them in any duty that is not specified in this arrangement. So we want Nigerians to disabuse their mind that putting them under a unitary command is going to collapse. It will not. It will make the job better.
All right. First Public Relations Officer, we have a number of tweets that have come in. We're going to try to run through them. They're just quite lengthy. And then we'll get the closing thoughts from Kabir. That's a point he raised about training. I'll come to him shortly after we go through those the tweets that we have. Joy, let's begin.
Okay.
This is from Victor Ohioswama. It says the directive to restructure SARS is a step in the right is the right decision. Several cases of alleged human rights abuses should be investigated and appropriate sanctions meted out to those found culpable.
Now, let's take this one from Dele Medj. It says, it is crucial that any overhaul of SARS is far-reaching and immediately effective. Restructuring SARS is not enough unless the government takes concrete steps to protect Nigerians. SARS must be independent and impartial. Victims should be given more time and protection to present their cases.
Now, Salame Ola tweet says SARS should be made more responsible in terms of physical appearance, uniform, name tag, and manner of approaching Nigerians.
And this one is from Omakoji1. Congratulations to all the advocates of good system devoid of social engineering and abuse of office for the public outcry against SARS excesses. Having said that, Ogajimo, if you claim authority is aware of SARS excesses before this time, why have you kept mute all these years?
Now, this is from Pastor Arisha. It says disbanding SARS isn't a good idea due to the significant impact the outfit had made in the past across the country.
And this one is coming from Chigozem Makdom. It says, we need them actually, but absolute power kills. The poor monitoring of activities of SARS led many of its members to become monsters.
And we have this from Sadarawi. Now, members of the SARS unit must possess well-defined moral rectitude, and they must be well-groomed, putting on rags and wearing facial look that aberrations must not be one to be identified with law enforcers.
Now, Austin Public tweets, oh, that's the one you just took, Kingsley. We go to El Rufai 12. Let it be restructured by providing them with electronic gadgets and a tracker for monitoring their activities. And by this, I think we're good to go.
DW Nigeria, that's the Twitter handle. Intelligence-led SARS operation should be the norm and not physical attacks on citizens.
And this is from Mike Anyanko. He says SARS started well after the formation, but only got abused later. In some states, though, it can be restructured by making sure that officers posted to the units are debriefed after 2 years. SARS still relevant to fighting crimes. An example is my state, Anambra, where fear of SARS by criminal is the beginning of wisdom. People should not use the unit to settle personal scores as experienced before. Officers to be posted there must undergo special training, especially on human rights. Police should be seen as friends of the society, disciplined and professional.
And we have this from Belesha Novic. It says, the Inspector General of Police shouldn't be the one to restructure SARS. The three arms of government should come up with a framework which is constitutionally based, capturing all the states and actors involved in politics, because restructuring is beyond 2019.
Quite a number of tweets here, Kingsley, and we should give our online viewers the opportunity to express their views. At Ogbeni SARS, he says SARS shouldn't be disbanded. Well, it is not. It's just been restructured, rather reformed. There's no security agency without bad eggs. It's just some are pronounced than the others because of their closeness to the public. The same way, there are many bad eggs among SARS officers, and it's the same that we have good ones.
That's right. Odalube Peter tweets, as a criminologist, I'm of the opinion that SARS needs serious rehabilitation because there are more criminals now than non-criminals. SARS started well, but they have failed. I'm a victim of their misconduct. I've been a victim of their misconduct twice, whereas I'm neither a suspect nor a criminal.
And let's go to at OK Udovi. He says, the change of name from SARS to FSARS is tantamount to repainting a stinking leaking pipe without fixing the mess. SARS needs character training and disciplinary regulations. People use them for dirty jobs, which ought not to be.
All right, very quickly, let's take this from Zuntu Suleiman. That's a new one. It says, we commend the directive on the acting president as timely and germane. However, the overhaul must be centered around intelligence gathering, monitoring, and domestic campaign for a vibrant security outfit, rather than what obtains in some open clips of brutality by SARS.
And this one is from Imalunegbe. It says, Nigerians need SARS, but need to put them on their primary responsibilities, such as letting them know they are not to search young boys' phones.
And this is from Markogi again. That says, there's no need for the polarization of security outfits here and there. If the police are properly trained, they can effectively do the work SARS are doing today. Therefore, end SARS now. For if we allow them to remain, they will resume their actions some days later.
And this one is from Al Sadarawi. It says, let there be a proactive unit in harsh NPF that will always be responsible for enforcement of discipline amongst member staff. This unit must open to all with toll-free number and quick in responding to any complaint brought to the desk.
All right, so those are the twists that we can take. Kabir, you talked about training and training and training, and also considering the trauma that some officers of SARS also undergo. Do we have a sense of, for instance, whether professors of psychology or other clinical psychologists are engaged, from time to time around the various state commands to shrink, the SARS operatives and, get them in the right frame of mind, considering what they encounter from the business level, perhaps up to the more refined levels of society?
Yeah, from my engagement with the police, I don't have a fair understanding of whether that is happening. I think the fourth PR will probably be in a better position to confirm or that is happening or not. However, we know that they do need that. The stress level associated with functions is very high. So definitely that kind of psychological evaluation as well as support for where red flags have been noticed is very crucial to the operations of their work.
First PRO.
Thank you so much. That has been done even from the footage from one of your reporters before the background. You can see that there's a season of training that's going on, and the IG took his time off to even be part of that training, to equally lecture them, open the training, and was there throughout the training. So that evaluation has been done. But what we are doing is to make it constant, and that is why the IGP have directed that we bring those people on board again to start this round of training. And the medical stroke psychological evaluation has already commenced. And like I said, largely, most of the things we do within is not something we take to the media.
All right.
Thank you so much.
All right, first PRO, thank you very much. We understand that there are some helplines that members of the public can access in case of any complaints that they may have. You can see the numbers on the screen. It's on that note, while we still have the numbers on the screen, we would like to thank our 4 guests who have been with us in the studios. Kabiru, of course, is a security risk expert. Kabiru, thank you very much for being with us on Good Morning Nigeria today. We also would like to thank the First Public Relations Officer, who is acting Deputy Commissioner of Police, Jimo Moshood. Thanks a lot for being with us on the program. If we can have those helplines again on the screen, that will be very useful to our viewers, because we are signing off on the conversation now. From Lagos, of course, our 2 guests, familiar faces, retired AIG Bala Hassan, who is also a lawyer. You saw him earlier in dark suit and a dark tie. Thanks a lot for being with us. And Ona Ohemo, who always calls me Honorable Kingsley. Would like to appreciate you all, gentlemen, for being with us on this conversation segment. So that does it for us. I'm sure that from time to time, these numbers will pop up and then the members of the public can take advantage of them.
That's right.
All right, so let's go on now to our complimentary segments, and here is sports.
Thank you for staying with us on Good Morning Nigeria. Now, to kickstart our conversation on restructuring of the Special Anti-Robbery Squad, SARS, here is Abdul Malik Adio with a background report.
Established by the Nigerian police, the Special Anti-Robbery Squad, SARS, was set up to combat violent crimes and criminality in Nigeria. Domicile under the Criminal Investigating Department, CID, the highest investigating arm of the Nigerian police force, SARS developed from these forces and now has a nationwide decree under the Nigerian Federal Police Force to confront violent crimes such as armed robbery, kidnapping, and communal clashes. However, the activities of SARS seemed to derail from its original mandate. This followed growing complaints of alleged brutality and human rights abuses by some Nigerians. This includes alleged sexual harassment, extortion, wrongful arrest, and unlawful detention, as well as torture. This uproar prompted some Nigerians who took to protest on both conventional and social media with the hashtag #EndSARS campaign. The Inspector General of Police took some steps to reform the operations of SARS. However, the unlawful activities of the operatives seems unabated.
Psychometric tests, training and continuous assessment of operatives deployed to SARS in keeping with acceptable standards operating procedures. Prohibition of conducting stop and search on roads unless where necessary. Provision of SARS operatives to act as bodyguards, delving into land matters, personal disputes, debt collection, and matters that are considered civil. I just want to warn here very, very seriously, if we find any commander involved in this nonsense, we are going to take immediate and appropriate action against that officer.
This prompted the acting president, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, to issue an order directing the Inspector General of Police to overhaul SARS with immediate effect and the nation's Human Rights Commission to investigate the allegations. While this is a positive news, experts say it is crucial that the overhaul of the Special Anti-Robbery Squad is far-reaching and immediately effective to end series of torture, unlawful detention, extortion, and other serious human rights violations that SARS officers have been levied with over the years. How can SARS be restructured for efficiency? Should SARS be scrapped? These are questions yearning for answers on Good Morning Nigeria.
All right, thank you very much, Abdul Malik Adio, for that background report. Now, we have guests at our Lagos Network studios and also here in Abuja. First, let's go back to Lagos and introduce our guests. You can see right there on the screen, that's the retired Assistant Inspector General of Police, Bala Hassan. Retired AIG Bala Hassan, who is also a lawyer. Pleasure to have you join us on Good Morning Nigeria today.
Good morning, Nigeria.
And with him as well in our Lagos Network studios is Dr. Ona Ehomo, familiar face on Good Morning Nigeria. Is President, National Association of Industrial Security and Safety Operators of Nigeria. Dr. Ehomo, pleasure to have you join us from our Lagos Network Center.
Good morning, sir.
All right, Joy, let's have you a little bit.
Yes, and here in our Abuja studio, we have the Acting Deputy Commissioner of Police and Force Public Relations Officer, Jima Moshood. It's good to have you join us on the program this morning.
Thank you for having me. Good morning, Nigerians.
Also in the studio is a familiar face on Good Morning Nigeria, Kabir Adamu, Security Risk Management Expert. It's a pleasure to have you join us on the program this morning.
It is my pleasure to be here.
Thank you for joining us. Now, let's start with PRO Jimo. Let's look at the initial concept of SARS. Give us a vivid and good picture of what SARS is all about.
Thank you so much. The Special Anti-Robbery Squad has been known before. Now have been reformed to Federal SARS. This unit have been the struck force of the force. we have so many strike forces, such as the Police Mobile Force, the Counter-Terrorist Unit, the Special Protection Unit, and the others have been carrying out core police duty in ensuring that violent crimes are brought to the bearers in the country. SARS history is for more than 40 years now, for over four decades, and they have been making significant progress from the period of Anini to the...
Now, the march to the 2019 elections is on in earnest with the increased tempo of political activities. Now, one big issue as the polls approach is that of offences, electoral offences that undermine the political advancement. Now, worrisome for many is the overheating of the polity, especially through hate speech, vote buying, undue influence, political violence or thuggery, and all these contradict the electoral guidelines. Now, going by the Constitution, electoral offences attract sanctions, which include imprisonment. But how effective is the application of the law, and how best to build a vibrant polity? These are some of the issues we'll be taking on NTA Tuesday Live tonight. But first, let's get to see this report by Salihu Abdullahi.
Nigeria presently has 91 political parties that are expected to participate in the 2019 general elections. This number not only opens up the country's political environment, but also makes the 2019 general elections the most participated in terms of political parties contesting. Already, activities ahead of the 2019 general elections are on, with all stakeholders engaged in one activity or the other. Aspirants are trooping to parties of their choice to pick nomination and expression of interest forms ahead of party primaries scheduled for the last week of this September. However, experiences of the past in the pre-election stages, especially those related to electoral violence, have remained a concern to many. There are, however, efforts towards a peaceful, free, and fair election. From 1999 to date, the electoral umpire, security agencies, and even the electorate are often overwhelmed by the activities of hitherto violators of electoral rules and regulations before, during, and after elections. This, many say, resulted in less persecution of such offenders, which make such offenses to keep recurring. Electoral offenses such as snatching of ballot boxes, vote buying, and hate speech during campaigns are now in the front burner more than before, thereby raising hope that this time around the issue will be addressed. But then, why is political contest in Nigeria seen as a do-or-die affair?
The threats posed especially by the outcome of the results of elections are always very, very expensive.
We must all come to agree that power comes from God. All of us, it is only one person that God will give power.
Members of the community, everybody, all hands must be on deck. Because I cannot be there destroying other people's children while my children are not there.
To fulfill the principle of democracy, the respondents expect political parties to campaign to convince the electorate and win their confidence.
Whoever that has been chosen by the majority of the people, and it is not possible to question the destiny of God.
There is a huge challenge that is placed on aspirants and political people to find ways to be able to galvanize support from people on the basis of ideas.
We must always be peaceful in our utterances, peaceful in our conduct.
What should be done to change the narrative? Could not enforcing the laws in the past be partly responsible for the ugly development? These and many more questions will be provided answers to shortly by guests on the program. In Abuja, Salihu Abdullahi, NTA News.
Right, and that report sets the tone for tonight's discussion. We'll first introduce our guest to you. We'd like to welcome to this program the National Commissioner, Information and Voter Education of the Independent National Electoral Commission, Mr. Solomon Adedeji Shuebi. Thanks for being here, Commissioner.
Good evening.
Let me also welcome to this program Deputy Inspector General of Police Operations, Habila Joshak. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me. Good evening.
We're also joined tonight by the chairman of the Inter-Party Advisory Council, IPAC, Mohammed Lawal Naladu. Thanks for being here.
Good evening, viewers.
And also joining us tonight is Dr. Chima Amadi, Independent Service Delivery Monitoring Group. Thanks for being here tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Right. As usual, we acquaint you with the procedure at the right time, at the appropriate time. You can get to be part of the discussion in the studio. The various platforms will be on your screen. Take advantage of them. That's what we always advise. And if you're calling in tonight, we say this all the time. Do us a favor when you get through, turn down the volume of your TV set. And the best way to know that your call has been passed through to the studio is your name will appear on screen. Once your name has been placed on screen, it signals that your call is through to the studio, and just go right ahead. Don't bother too much about greetings. Go straight to your point, ask a question or make a comment, and surely our guests tonight will take on such issues as you might raise. So once again, welcome to NTA Tuesday Live. Tonight, we're talking about electoral offenses. This as 2019 approaches. Let's turn to the National Commissioner in charge of Information and Voter Education of INEC. And yes, when we say electoral offenses, most people, first thing that comes to their mind is snatching of a ballot box, all such things. But it goes a lot beyond that, and there's so many things that constitute an offense. Let's hear first from INEC.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rayo. Electoral offenses vary. In fact, they are as wide as electoral activities themselves are. Electoral offenses start right from registration. A lot of people associate electoral offenses with voting, but then there are electoral offenses associated with registration. For instance, multiple registration is an offense under the law. Registration by a proxy is an offense on its own. Disruption or destruction of any of our equipment are offenses. And when we talk about offenses too, some of them even go outside the windows of the commission. We are supposed to monitor campaigns. There are some offenses which are associated with campaigns themselves. They are electoral offenses. But when we come down to balloting or voting, as the case may be, we have a whole range of them, just like you noticed. The issue of ballot snatching, thuggery, inducement of voters, and a whole lot more. There are so many of them that we cannot just have time to list here. But all we want to say here is that electoral offenses starts right from registration through to campaigns of political parties, and then, of course, during the elections themselves.
And there are guidelines at each stage prescribing what should be done, what shouldn't be done.
We have enough laws, we have enough guidelines, even highlighting some of these offenses, highlighting the relative punishment, and of course giving guidelines on how to prevent and how to avoid some of these things. You mentioned hate speech here, for instance. Most people don't see it as electoral offense. It is. It is. We've seen people who have willfully damaged the posters of their opponents. It is. Even as we are talking now, not given equal opportunities to all political parties, at least in broadcast by media organizations, is an offense related to election and, of course, punishable by the relevant body, which is the MBC. So there are guidelines, there are laws. We have enough of these, and in fact, we have enough of the offenses.
Well, let's come to DIG. With a wide range of offenses like this, can law enforcement superintend properly what goes on, what constitutes offenses? In fact, some might even want to ask, for the law officers, are they also aware of this wide range of offenses as to stand and ensure that the law is followed?
Yes, Cyril, I aligned myself with the position of the National Electoral Commissioner. There are a wide range of electoral offences that are spelled out in the electoral election of 2010 and 2015 as amended. It spelled out all what these are. And like you said, it starts from registration of voters, those that are underage, and those of them that would want to register twice constitute an offense. Having left that, even at the electioneering campaign, those who turn violent and those who attack and destroy equipments that are used for the purposes of making propaganda and, of course, running those campaigns constitute an offense. There are also those of them that will walk to a polling unit and cast their vote without having been registered or using someone else's voting cards and also constitute an offense. There are quite a lot of them that are spelled out in the Electoral Act of 2010 and 2015 as amended. And all these offenses are spelled. The Nigerian police, who provide security across board for the purpose of this election, which is the primary assignment, including other security agencies that are also providing this security, have the right, have the authority constitutionally and statutorily to arrest anyone that is found to have committed any of these offenses.
Over time, it's been extremely difficult to bring people to book, people who have committed electoral offenses. How difficult it is, because in dealing with politics, you're dealing with a charged atmosphere. It's open to interpretation of all sorts. People sometimes have been known to deliberately do things against the guidelines, knowing that if any attempt is made to bring them to book, they can turn around and claim that it's all political. Someone's using someone somewhere to... How tough is it to carry out this assignment?
Yes, there's nothing tough because the guidelines are clearly spelled out. But I will agree with you, in a politicized environment and a community like this, you are likely to see people trying to bend the law to their advantage. But I could say that there are many factors that have been responsible for not gaining conviction at swift time. Some of the things are challenges of the fact that, yes, one, the Nigerian police and other security agencies have the right to arrest. The Nigerian police is saddled with the responsibility of conducting investigation of electoral offenses. But the Nigerian police do not prosecute offenders in electoral offenses. The offenders are arrested and are handed over to INEC, whose responsibility it is to ensure prosecution. Outside that, some of the things that slow down process of bringing people to justice is this question of the ability to have the capacity, both the Nigerian police and other security agencies or INEC. There are paucity of funds. There are also a lot of issues that people will dilly-dally, getting people to sit down and submit themselves for statement taking and questioning and the rest of it. There are a lot of games, but I would say that particularly if we needed to fine-tune and fast-track the process, then we need to look at it critically to actually fund all these processes.
All right.
Yes.
Okay, well, as we go on, we'll look at the process and to see if indeed the electoral body can cope with these responsibilities. Well, let's come to the IPAC chairman, and you represent the politicians, the political class, and that is where the worry starts from. Yes. Going by what has been happening, are you worried about what's building up to the elections? Because Nigerians have been speaking out about the way the politicians have been conducting themselves so far, and it's as if this is something that occurs again and again over time.
Yes, you see, The challenge we political parties have today is the trying to take over political parties by the money bags. There are people that are desperate. They want to win election at all times and in any way. So when they come, they always use their resources or whatever, you know, available to them to disrupt the peace process of conducting elections. So I think it is not with us political party officials or operators. Most of these problems come from the people that are contesting elections. They want to win at all costs. And you know, it is not everybody that we can control. Some, they don't do it in the party offices. They do it or commit this kind of crimes at the polling units. So I think it's a problem to all political parties, and it's a problem to all Nigerians, most especially, you know, the less privileged people. We have been noticing, you know, low turnout of women and people living with disabilities because of fear of violence. So I think we are trying our best in collaboration with INEC to curb this kind of, you know, menace. I remember recently when we were going to Ekiti for elections, INEC supported political parties to go for voter education, educate voters on the importance of having a violence-free election. So the political parties are doing very well, and we are supporting the security agencies and INEC in conducting a peaceful election. But definitely this issue of money bags trying to come and use their whatever resources to do things in their favor or turn things to their favor is what is giving us sleepless nights.
So have you been able to put heads together, for instance, to say, look, within our ranks, where we find these infractions, this is what step we should take? Or is it the challenge is that, well, as they say, there are big parties and there are small parties, and the big fish always eat up the small fish, and, you know, they really can't fight.
It doesn't matter. It is not the big party or the small party. You can see some of them, when they cannot get ticket in the bigger parties, they now go and get any of the smaller parties, and they want to come out at all costs. So I think the problem is not with us, with the politicians or the political party operators. The problem is with these people that are contesting election. And like I said, we have been collaborating with INEC to see how we can reduce, you know, the repeat of what has been happening at vote.
All right, we'll return to you and still raise some of those issues. But Dr. Ahmadi, you've been listening to all of this. Let's get your impressions first.
Thank you, Cyril. We need to put certain things in context, because listening to the gentleman on the panel here, someone who just arrived in Nigeria would think, oh, there's really no problem of election violence. It's something the umpire is handling, the police are doing well, the politicians understand. And so we can, no, that is not true. That is not the true picture. What we have here is an electoral act that is very exhaustive in terms of defining what constitutes electoral offense. And like the commissioner has said, the electoral act is in describing these offenses is such that it talks about pre-elections, during elections, after elections, and it has so many things. Nigerians will be surprised to find that the kinds of things that constitute electoral offense. Now, so you ask yourself, if our laws are so exhaustive, how come we still have electoral offenses such that we are discussing on Tuesday night the issue of electoral offenses? The simple reason is because there is an internal contradiction even in the structure and the provisions of the law. I will explain. And like the commissioner said, you have a situation where the law says that INEC prosecutes. And you ask yourself a question. An INEC that does not have the capacity, the law, you know, the kind of capacity that the police has to prosecute, that has all kinds of things. People have forgotten that INEC has changed. The INEC of 1999 is no longer the INEC of 2018. The INEC of 1999 was an INEC that started with elections, finished elections, goes to bed. The INEC of 2015 is conducting elections almost every other month. It is on record that that an average of 1 Nigerian parliamentarian dies every month. And this body is conducting elections every month. You have an INEC that is immersed with staggered elections. We just finished the governorship elections. An INEC that is conducting what you call continuous voter registration. And then you're asking this INEC to prosecute. And in asking it to prosecute, the law says that the police would make arrests, investigate, and then hand over to them. That is where the challenge now starts. Before any election, the police tells you that they have mobilized 30,000 policemen to go to another state to go provide security for that state. Let us assume, for the purposes of this discussion, that the police actually arrest people that are caught in committing offenses. Now, after the election, the policemen that arrest, they are supposed to be the IPOs, right? But then after the elections, they return back to their bases, handing over cases to people who are not even part, the arresting officers. And then you see that case does a natural death because you don't have to, the police officer has to come from very far to come and prosecute. At the end of the day, it doesn't happen. At the end of the day, even the police themselves become complicit when you begin to hear issues of, tensions here and there, what is happening. When you take, censuses, and for those of us who are observers, we begin to see security operatives being complicit in these issues. So is it the police that is complicit, that is going to arrest somebody and then, investigate and then hand over to INEC that is ill-equipped to even do that? So I think, in my opinion, that this structural deficiency was put in place by the political class to ensure that, their king, their type are not properly prosecuted. Now, let's be clear here. It has always failed. But for the first time, for example, in 2016, when INEC took the bold step to say, okay, we want to prosecute people, and we worked with INEC, with the police in Kano, the Minji Briba election, if INEC had to suspend that election, 40 people were prosecuted, and, said today, but the worst part? They were just hoodlums. Their sponsors, nobody had to. And then when you now start talking about sponsors, we have situations where the big guns who engineer these things, nobody prosecutes them because they make one phone call, everything goes well. We have a situation, for example, in a state in Nigeria where a service senator was indicted. That service senator was never prosecuted. Today he's a minister of the Federal Republic. And it's on document. So the point I'm saying that when you have these structural deficiencies in the law, it becomes very difficult for you to say, oh, INEC prosecutes. It's just a mantra. INEC does not have the capacity to prosecute, and that is why several governments, judicial, commissions, several government commissions that have been set up, has said, strip this thing from INEC. INEC should have no business with prosecution. Set up a commission and a tribunal whose sole responsibility will be to begin to prosecute and try individuals. So we need to. That is why I said that it is important that we put this into context so that we don't get it twisted here.
Thanks so much. So many issues that you have raised. One, the capacity. Two, and would it be what is responsible for the fact that over time you haven't had that many prosecutions, given the widespread violations of the electoral process? We have not seen that many prosecutions.
In fact, he just said what we've been shouting very loudly in another phase. We were the first to advocate for the setup of a separate tribunal to deal with offenses. We have financial offenses in Nigeria. You have a body that is responsible for that. We have electoral offenses. We've had about 4, just like you said, we've had about 3 or 4 different bodies set up by government, and they have recommended the setup of this electoral offenses tribunal. We have shouted it over and over again. It just picked it, it just nipped it right on the head. We lack the capacity and the equipment to prosecute. And the Constitution bestows this particular function on us. At times, some of the people who want to offend might even to prosecute might be our own staff. How do we go on prosecuting ourselves? This still calls for the setup of what we call this electoral offenses tribunal. Look at our polling booths. Let me just give you that scenario. We have about 120,000 of them. The total staff in INEC, including the drivers, about 16,000. Now we employ about 500,000 of these ad hoc staff who are just youth corpers, and on that day they are staff. There's no way they could acquire that type of capacity to even talk less of arrest or prosecution. For us to prosecute, we need the requisite ingredient to do it. We have said it, we are saying it, we are totally incapacitated. We lack the capacity to prosecute electoral offences, and that, in that, I have a very willing partner, and that is the voice of the Commission, which has just voiced out here.
Okay, let's look at the other side, which involves the arresting and investigating authority. And just what Dr. Amadi has just pointed out. Yes, the police moves its personnel to election areas and offenses are committed. Now, what happens? At the end of that period, the police moves its personnel back to their original bases. So how do you carry out this investigation?
Now, to some extent, Doctor has really painted a picture of the fact that it is true that we go in for an election, and during this period, sometimes we spend some days, and in doing that, you are also part of the last campaign, and we're expected to pick those who present themselves as threats to the process, and actually carry out the threats, and not just mere threats, but they concretize that threat. We're supposed to pick such people, and outside that, there are those of them that commit a lot of offenses on election day. There are offenses on election day. These people are picked. But it is true that all those that ran contrary or committed such offense during election are to be prosecuted either in the magistrate or the high court in the state where the election is being conducted. And so you don't have a choice. You don't take them out. You leave them out there. And like I said, the ability by the police and any other person that is responsible is clearly seen. But the capacity in terms of creating an environment that one could stay, carry out this investigation thoroughly, hand it over to those that are just waiting to prosecute. If we get at that, then we can get something tangible.
So, for instance, you see, what I'm trying to understand here is, let's take an example. Let's imagine, for instance, that in Ekiti, the last elections, you had moved an officer from, say, perhaps Abuja, to be part of those moving to Ekiti for the elections. And that officer had arrested some people who committed some offenses. Okay? So it is assumed that within that period where the election took place and the results were announced, he would have conducted all his investigation, handed over to INEC, and then at the end of it all, he's moved back to Abuja, for instance. So when they go to court and there is need for the investigating officer to show in court, you would move that officer back and forth to Ekiti. Yes. Yes, and so Cyril, how much of that can you do?
Cyril, that is it. The last election in Ekiti, the one that I'm very sure, we had 8 that ran contrary, that broke the law. We got 8 arrested, and investigation started because we usually have a team that does investigate right from the onset. Election before election day, election on, offenses committed on election day, and election, some of the offenses committed immediately after election, and there are a lot of others that are outside the electoral law that the police is constitutionally responsible for the investigation and the prosecution, because some of the offenses that are of such a nature that does not fall under this electoral law, the police will carry that. It is true that when we do that, we're expected to keep those teams to continue to investigate and thereafter hand over to INEC. But because of the capacity, like I told you, there are facilities that are required, there are a lot of movements, there are a lot of interviews, and there are a lot of money that goes in. Once you don't have that, you hand over to the state.
For the IPAC chairman, would it be correct now to say that the politicians know this loophole and therefore they exploit it and do things and get away with it?
No, it is not that the politicians know the loopholes. You see, like I have said, these crimes are being mostly committed by people that are contesting election.
Yeah, but they're using the platform of
They
the
are using the
political
platform.
parties.
Yes, of course. But when they are coming, they will come as clean and good people. It's only when they want to achieve what they want to achieve, they start displaying their own character, which we don't know. So the efforts the police, security agencies, and INEC is putting to curb this kind of or continued, violence in election or electoral processes is being supported by Inter-Party Advisory Council. That is why whenever there is any election around the corner, we used to carry ourselves to that state or that scene to make sure we go out and sensitize voters the need and importance of having a violence-free election. And we have flyers, we have all sorts of working materials and information to pass to the electorate that look, violence during election or after or before is not good for this country and it's not good for the development of democracy in Nigeria.
Okay, so far we've been looking at election day, but let's come to pre-election. There are also electoral offenses, pre-election. Yes. And it's like what is happening now. When you look at the scenario, what do you see as IPAC?
You see, IPAC, we are trying our best to educate the public. And, the main cause of this is the hate speech. People have started campaigning using, offensive languages against their opponents. So these are some of the things and these are some of the areas that we are seeking for support from other stakeholders, not only political parties. We cannot, if we cannot synergize with the state security, INEC, and other stakeholders, there is nothing political parties can do.
Okay, we'll return to you in a moment, but our phone lines are already open, and we have our first caller tonight, Emeka, who's calling in from Imo State. Hello, Emeka. Are you still there? Well, we lost that call. But let me just dwell a little longer with you. Let's face it, when all these things happen, IPAC can hardly do anything, can it? I mean, apart from a gentleman's agreement, which you reach among the parties, there's nothing that you can do, really. If anyone who, subscribed to that gentleman's agreement breaks it, is there anything you can do about it? Nothing, really.
Not so much, actually. Not so much, actually, because we don't have any power to prosecute anybody. Exactly. We don't have power to prosecute. But we have our legitimate right, to educate voters.
Okay, so beyond that, what advice would you give the authorities then? For instance, you gather yourselves around and say, look, we are IPAC, we belong to all the parties. Let's sign a gentleman's agreement and say, look, we'll carry out our campaigns devoid of hate speech. We'll make sure our supporters don't go on rampage. We'll not do this. And the minute you put pen to paper and turn your back, it starts to happen. So what do you advise the authorities and say, look, let's think of a way we can put a stop to this, or at least curb it to the barest minimum?
Well, recently we had a capacity building workshop in Abuja here where all the political parties came together and signed a peace accord kind of, where we all agreed that the elections should be violence-free. These are the only things we can do. But I am suggesting if the security personnel can be more proactive, I think we political parties can be giving them information to arrest, offenders.
All right. Let's go back to the phones again. This time, Kanu. Hope we can get this call through from Abdullahi, who's calling in from Kanu. Hello, Abdullahi. Hello, Abdullahi, are you there?
Hello, good evening.
Yes, good evening. Go right ahead.
Hello, good evening.
Yes, go ahead.
Hello. Hello, good evening.
Yes, Abdullahi, your name is on screen, so go right ahead with your question or comment.
Hello.
Okay.
Okay, now I'm hearing what you have said with your guest. Yes, my comment is that to have this now, I'm hearing what you have said with your guest. Now, please, my advice is that my comment is that
You know what, Abdullahi, we're not getting this correctly. We said
my
at the
advice
start
is
of
that
this program, and we've always said this, that when your call goes through, turn down the volume of your TV. I can hear the echo from your TV right here in the studio where I'm seated, and this is what we say every week. Every Tuesday we say the same thing. And so, Abdullahi, I'm not sure we can continue that.